everyone, and welcome to the LatinX Business Podcast. I'm your host, Randy Gomez, and if you're looking to demystify the world of business through the raw, authentic stories of Latinx entrepreneurs, you've come to the right place. As someone with an MBA and an IRS enrolled agent license, I spent years helping freelancers, partnerships, and S corporations navigate the often tricky waters of the U.S. tax law. Now, I'm bringing that expertise and passion to this community right here. So thank you for tuning in, and you know what? It's time to talk business. Good morning, Cynthia.
Hi, Randy. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Super excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes. And, it's December, right? 2021, but we're going to release this episode in January. So I want to definitely gear the episode towards any 2022 goals for people. So let's just get right into it. Let's talk first about yourself and your business. And first, let's talk about any preferred pronouns that you want to go by, and how do you identify within the Latinx community?
So I do identify as she.
Okay.
And as far as my Latinx community, I identify as Mexican American. And that's because my parents are my mother's from Juarez. My father's from Tijuana. And then if you want to get like real deep in Mexico, we're talking about Zacatecas, El Malacate, Zacatecas, and from San Gabriel, Durango.
And Durango, okay. Mm-hmm. So I'm guessing your parents migrated from the central part of Mexico to the north part of Mexico. Do you know a little bit about that history?
Yes, and even a little bit more previous to that. My father, he actually was from his grandfather was from the northern part of Basque Spain. So in a sense, I do identify as well. And then just based on my features, like I'm taller. I used to have like really blonde hair when I was little. A lot of my cousins are very light skinned. And then my grandma's side has more indigenous features, like the darker colored eyes, the tanner skin. So I'm like a nice little mix of all of that.
That's awesome. You're a little, definitely like a little hybrid of different cultures and, different features. And that's funny you bring that up, because I have aunts and uncles in Zacatecas too, who, you look at them and they're blonde, blue eyes, green eyes, blonde hair, it's just the way they were born. And then that's from my dad's side. And from my mom's side, I have more the indigenous side as well, the almond shaped eyes, the brown eyes, the dark hair, the straight hair. I feel like nowadays so many cultures, so many people are mixes, and I think that's awesome, because I think that's what's happening now, and even what happened before. Like, people are traveling a lot more, people are moving from the country that they were born in. People are no longer staying in the country they're born in, and it's happening both in the U.S. and outside the U.S. I think like the migration patterns are going both ways. So
for sure, it's a beautiful
just
thing.
In LA, like here alone, we see so many different cultures. And I love it. I love, the diversity and all that. So, no, thank you for sharing that.
For sure.
But okay, so let's talk about your own business, right? So you're in real estate. Tell me more about your business, what you do, what kind of offerings you have for people to know your expertise, and then we'll take it from there.
Awesome. Well, Randy, first of all, I think it's important for the viewers to know how we actually met. And
definitely.
It's funny actually. I was setting up an event. It was a monthly real estate investor fix and flip event, and you approached me after, and you said, thank you for sharing your story. I really appreciated your story, and I had really good feedback from a lot of the attendees at that event, and we stayed in contact. And then you said, I want to interview you. So I was like, heck yeah, let's do it. Anything to really just empower our community to become more financially literate and just build that generational wealth, which is the basis of what I do, building generational wealth through real estate.
Yes.
So thank you for having me again. And then as far as like what inspired me to start my own business?
Yeah, definitely. Why don't we go with that? You have your story. And I think the reason I approached you was because I thought it was very motivating. And if there's Latinas out there, or, Latinos too, that would want to get into real estate, and I think your story would be like a great way for them to kind of fire themselves and stuff. So if you want to go through your story, let's go through it right now.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, thank you for allowing me to share my story. And just a little bit about me. Right now, I am currently in the San Gabriel Valley. I grew up in the city of La Puente, 626,
Okay.
and I graduated from Bassett High School. I went on to get my bachelor's degree from Cal Poly Pomona, and then eventually got
Hmm.
my master's from Cal State LA.
Oh, okay.
I was a teacher for 11 years, 8 years as an actual teacher, but 11 years in education. From I was an assistant to an instructional aide for special ed. Basically, the whole time
Mm.
I worked with special needs students, and that's where my area of expertise is in the learning process. And so yeah. So as far as the story that I shared with all of you, I didn't get into too much detail about other things, but well, basically, like us Hispanics, how we like to we need to stay in one house, right? You got your grandma, you got everybody. So we
Yeah.
got to help each other out, right?
Yes.
So our family was an extended family, and like I said, we grew up in La Puente. My grandmother was the heart of that family, and unfortunately, she passed away in 2001 due to breast
Mm.
cancer. And
Okay.
then shortly after, my mother did she had a drug addiction. So the
Mm.
whole family, you can say, went through some tough times.
Yeah, it must
And
have been hard
oh,
for sure.
real tough, because I had to step it up. And so when you ask, what inspired me to start my own business, I always thought, man, going to college really opened up my eyes, and it allowed me to connect with other students, even though the majority of students were not like me,
Right.
brown hair. There was a lot of other ethnicities, and I didn't feel like I fit in necessarily, but I was able to find a few friends, and they positively influenced me to continue, right? And to build those
Yeah.
study skills and those habits and those things that were just going to basically improve my chances at just a better quality of life. And I think you
Hmm.
mentioned that you were in sociology too, right?
Yeah. So it's funny because in undergrad I did sociology and art and I emphasized my art and photography. And I could be the most remotely removed from that at the moment because my focus is taxes and businesses, right? Helping small businesses. So
Right.
yeah.
And in a sense, that sociology, I think every minority needs to take a sociology class, because it really just breaks down the statistics, the facts of the breakdown of a lot of perceived myths and whatnot. So it's really good. It's an eye opener. And I thought, you know what? There is nothing wrong with me. I just need to improve my knowledge. I need to improve my
Hmm.
skills. I need to improve my language. I need to improve my appearance. I need to improve all these things, and not necessarily to take away from who I was as a person, but to become a better version of myself, right?
Yes.
And so then I was like, you know what? This is like a game. So I thought, I'm going to learn about everything. I'm going to learn the most I can to level myself up.
Okay.
And therefore, I've always just been a curious person. So I learned, being a teacher, I probably would have a comfortable job, but I grew distant from it after a while, because there's just so much politics. There's so much that kids need to learn about, like financial literacy. A lot of people, a lot of hands in the pot, and at the end of the day, it wasn't going to get me the pay that I needed to be free.
Hmm.
And so as a teacher, I started to be an investor. So my plan was always get my grandfather to stop working his two jobs. My grandmother and grandfather were janitors. My mom, she worked with them. She helped them out. And I was like, there has to be a way. There has to be a way. And even as a teacher, I found myself struggling. I was like, no way. Like, how is it that you go to college, you get a master's, you get all these teaching credits, you get in so much debt, by the way.
Yeah.
And it's like, how am I still struggling? Like, they said go to school, they said do this, do this, do that. Like, how am I still struggling as a sole provider of my family now? Because remember, like, well, now my mom passed away, and then my grandmother passed away, so it's just me, my grandfather, and my sisters. And it's
Mm.
like, ever since high school, I was
Yeah.
forced out of financial necessity to level up. So I,
Right.
I feel like I had no choice but to survive. And it was like, you're gonna either get smart, or there's no other option, right?
Right. Yeah. And you know what? In those moments that we're faced with, like in adversity in our lives, I feel like a lot of people either level up or, they go into the dark side, a depression or whatnot. So, no, I commend you for taking on that responsibility because it's a lot for someone to take on to be the sole provider of their family. So, but
Exactly.
definitely,
Thank you. Thank you. It
yeah.
is. It is a tough job. And a lot of people, they think that, what they see now, or they don't validate the fact that, hey, you know what? No one said it was going to be easy. Like, it's going to be hard, and it's going to be a challenge, but that is going to make you stronger. I just picked up on the books. I felt that these circumstances pushed me to move towards knowledge as a tool for improving
Mm-hmm.
the quality of my life for me and my family. And eventually, after I got my first investment property, and I'll tell you guys, it happened through leverage. So I was able to
Mm-hmm.
pull out cash because I was making the payments on my grandfather's mortgage since and this is something a lot of people don't know. Like, I was struggling so much that
Mm-hmm.
I maxed out all my student loans, and I was paying for the mortgage a few months at a time. And my grandfather
Mm-hmm.
could not make it. He could not make it by himself. So
Yeah.
I maxed out all my student loans, paid for the mortgage, figured it out later, I always was in a like survival mode, right?
Yeah.
And then later, when I became a teacher, started paying down my debt, started paying it down. And then I was like, hey, as I started to gain more knowledge, let me use the equity in my grandfather's house, which, by the way, is the biggest tool to getting that generational wealth is home equity.
Yeah.
And let me use that money to purchase an income producing asset so that I can basically leverage myself to be more financially cash flowing, so I could be more financially stable, right?
Yes.
So I went ahead and did that. And just recently I sold it, doubled my investment. And right now I'm just looking for my next fix and flip, my next investments. But it's like that, if I wouldn't have done all of that and not been afraid and informed myself and communicated with people and hung out with people who were on the same mindset,
Right.
then I would not have done it on my own. I don't think so.
Wow. So that experience is that the one that got you into real estate and you decided like, I need to leave? Like, how did you make that decision? Walk me through that process. Like, you're a teacher for
Oh.
11 years. Well, you're in education for 11 years, you teacher for 8. And so the last couple of years you're there, you're kind of like, is this it, right? Like, what's going on in your mind?
Yeah.
Walk me through that.
Right. So I was like, so when I was a teacher for that long, you start to get a little burned out. I mean,
Hmm.
I personally started seeing teachers around me just really exhausted, really burned out, just complete. And there was just no, to me, it was never the kids. The kids were the most exciting part. It just became this like a suffocating feeling for me as far as being in a classroom. And as far like, am I going to be in a classroom for the rest of my life? Like, I need to be out traveling, learning about the world, exploring, being with people, and serving a greater. I felt like I was made to do something more impactful in people's lives. And I understand teaching isn't impactful. It is impactful. Like, I'm
Yeah.
a lot of, a lot of parents, a lot of teachers, a lot of students, and I love teaching. Like, that's why you see it in my content. I still do it.
Yes, you
But
do.
I got tired of, I kind of got burned out. And so and I was always interested in real estate. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna learn about real estate. I'm gonna get my license so I can learn about the transaction side, and I'm gonna just have it under my belt. And then that's when I started like being asked, hey, you're in real estate. And I started putting myself out there, and then I started closing deals. I'm like, okay, cool. Well, this is gonna help me get to my investment goals. My investment goal is to own an apartment complex one day. So
Yeah.
it's gonna
So
help me even faster.
were you, so then when you started closing deals, were you still a teacher? Like, how did you start? Like, part-time, or did you leave teaching 100% and then went straight into real estate?
That's a great question. So I was online teaching. So I was able to, on my breaks, I would do some of the courses. And so I was kind of like working one, working another. So when I wasn't actually teaching, I was taking some courses and just all day, just trying to get licensed. But I did end up working. What I did was I left it completely after having saved up a little.
Okay.
I left it completely and I dedicated myself 100%. So I went all in.
Yeah, that's amazing because when people want to do career changes, I've heard a lot of people do it different ways. And sometimes it comes down to your circumstance where some people have the privilege of being able to leave a field like on Wednesday, or on Thursday, they're like, I'm done.
Right.
This is it. And other times it's like, all right, wow. I still gotta make money, I still gotta work, but in order to move into another field, since you are starting from zero, you have to kind of like take it slow.
Exactly.
And I guess there's no right way of doing it. I just like to ask people how they did it because there might be people out there who have the opportunity and they're just like, I'm gonna leave this field or I'm gonna start something new. And I kind of relate this back to when I was in after undergrad. I'm like, damn, like now I know if coming out of undergrad I would have started like another business or something, I would have succeeded so much because I had really not much to lose, or like, I mean, really I had my student debt, but that was about it. That is a great time for anyone to go into any new field that they want to go into. But no one, like you said, we're first generation Latinos here in the US. Our parents didn't go to school and they don't have the background that we have now. So I just want to get this information out there for people. And yes, you're right. I was told too to go to school, get a degree. They're like, don't worry about how you're gonna pay it. But when we were growing up in the '90s and early 2000s, there was a huge lack of Latinos in education, right? And there still is by any means. So
Right.
I feel like the push was just go, go, go. Like you need to make it. You can no longer be a statistic. You shouldn't be that one person that adds to that statistic of Latinos and Latinx folk not going to college. So it's tough to reconcile that with coming out and having to work and pay bills and pay your student loans off because man, those student loans hit hard, right?
Oh yeah,
Um,
it's a vicious cycle. Totally.
yeah. Yeah,
And
so go for it.
I was because I worked with students that were up to the age of 24 and under the umbrella of special needs, it's not
Mhm.
students like you think, oh, they are intellectually disabled. A lot of the students they had ADHD. Like me, I feel
Mhm.
like I have for sure I have like ADHD. So with super smart kids, autism, lack social skills, things
Mm,
like that. And a lot of the
okay.
students I connected with them and I'm like, they're like, my parents say go to college, they say do this, da, da, da. I'm like, get a good career. You don't need to get in debt. They didn't want to go to college. A lot of them couldn't even get into college. I'm like, why don't you go get a specialized? You're good at this. Why don't you do this? You're good at fixing things. Why don't you become like an AC? Why don't you consider these
Yeah,
jobs that actually
totally.
pay
Yes.
very well?
Yes, and they pay good living wages. So I agree with you 100%. And I hate saying college or education is not for everyone, but there's different types of education out there. But when you're in high school and whatnot, I think the main one they push obviously is a 4-year degree. But let's move it along. And because I wanted to ask you, like, how does someone, like, let's say, wants to enter the real estate? What are some of the steps they need to take now in order to become either a real estate agent in the next year or so? Like, what do they have to do to get into the field you're in?
All right. So right now, for California real estate licensing, you do
Yes.
need to take 3 courses. I think
Mhm.
it's principles of real estate and then 2 other ones. I think it's like finance. But there's 3 total classes. And what you could do is go to this website called Real Estate Express. And
Okay.
it's like a little purple bird. And
Okay.
what you do there is you get the cheapest plan. I think it's like 60 to 80 bucks. And you take those courses. Once you pass those courses, then you can go to another website called Prep Agent. And the
Okay.
reason I recommend this website is because Prep Agent is a very visual, it's all videos, short videos, like 2-minute videos about topics. And he uses diagrams and he uses very good
Mm,
models and explanations for some of the terms that are
okay.
just wild that I've never even heard some, like, just the terminology in real estate is like a whole nother ball game. And
Oh
if
yeah, I bet.
if you can master the vocabulary, then you're pretty much solid, because there's things that are on this test that don't even pertain to California properties, like riparian rights, like that. I mean, Southern
Mm,
California and Northern California, it's funny because like Southern California is really Southern California, really, really low. And then like Central California. We sell 50% of all California houses just in Southern California. It's just we take most of the resources down here too, and it's
Okay.
definitely different on the test. A lot of the terms, we don't use a lot of that here in the LA region. So get prep
Oh,
agent.
got it. Okay.
Yeah, get prep agent because you're gonna need to know those terms.
Yes. So, one of, yeah, so the jargon in that field, that's, it's very important because when you're taking the test, they're going to be asking you questions about those words and specific, topics in your field. So, and that prep agent one, how much is that one? Because you said the other one was 60 to 80.
You know what? I want to say it's around the same price. I don't
Okay.
remember exactly.
Yeah.
I don't remember, but it should be around the same price.
Yeah. So I mean, okay, so once you go through these, and for the price of it, I think it's funny for the amount of money you pay, you're getting a livelihood, you're getting a way to make income.
Right.
It's wow, the investment I think is so worth it for anyone that wants to become a real estate agent. So what happens after you take these courses? You do prep for the exam or what's going on?
Yeah, so prep agent's going to help you prep for the state exam. And then once you pass your exam, then you can get a license issued active or inactive. So if you
Okay.
already talking to someone in a brokerage, you already know someone that's going to help you, basically guide you, mentor you, you can go under a broker because you need to work under a broker. You need to be supervised by one. And that could be, there's a million different companies. I personally EXP Realty. And the reason that I chose them as a new agent was because they had everything online during COVID. And when I got licensed 2 years ago, all the offices for most of the places were closed. So it's not like I could have gone in and got some great training,
Oh,
So,
got it.
but I
Yeah.
was able to get great training online from basically agents from the whole world because EXP is a global company. And so that was the power behind that. It was convenient. It was the cheapest starting cost. I didn't have a lot of money to really just pay all this money for brokerage fees and whatnot. And then come to find out, they actually do stocks. So like if you bring agents over, they give you some of their revenue share. There's a lot of perks like stocks that they give you for every transaction closed, and they give you
That's awesome.
discounts. Yeah, they have a lot of perks, and they're pretty much an online already for 15 years. They're virtual company, virtual brokerage. So to me, that was just a convenient thing for me at the time. And now that my business is completely online, I really don't have a need to go anywhere else. Like I'm pretty much happy there.
Yeah. And they probably help you with continuing education and all that stuff too, right?
Oh yeah, they do. We have one broker for the Southern California region, and she's just a phone call away. So there's pros and cons to different models. There's pros and cons, but you just got to find out what model works best for you.
Yes, no. But I appreciate you sharing that because, I feel like so many people out there could be thinking about wanting to come into real estate, but they're just like, I don't know, I don't have the time, or I work full time, or I do this, or I have kids, or I gotta take care of my grandparents, especially in the Latinx community, right? A lot of that does happen because, like you said, we're a unit, we live together. There might be a lot of us in one household at a time. No, thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the pandemic because you said you got your license about 2 years ago. So that's when the pandemic started. I guess right before the pandemic, you had finished all your courses and you took the exams and you got your license. How did the pandemic, I guess, shape? Because it didn't shift your business, but you started off during the pandemic, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So I got licensed December actually. And it's funny because this is my second year officially this month. I believe the 3rd or tomorrow or the 6th. In any case, the pandemic really just, I want to say, established my business because I had no choice but to be online. And I had to learn again a new system, a new language, a new online everything. My whole business is if you send me a DM, hey, I want to get started, I will send you a Google form that I get an alert for. I will set you up on alerts. Everything is systematized, automated, super easy. Click, you get all the information you want. everything is just completely systematized. I get alerts on my watch, on my iWatch, hey, you got a new lead, or hey, you know, this person wants to know more information about this. And so having that business online, being forced to be online because of COVID, it actually enabled me to contact more doors than if I would have just gone knocking on doors, which, you know, you still can't, I mean, you could do, but I feel like you meet more people online because most people have phones. So you get more market, you know, you market yourself more through phones.
Oh yeah, no, and so many people have a phone with an internet plan nowadays where you know, I don't know the statistics. It's been a minute, but when I heard about the statistics, there more Latinos, more Latinas have a phone with internet access, and for example, they're banking through their phone versus walking in or banking online, because there's Latinx households out there that don't have internet access, right? So their phone is their internet access, and I think the same goes for Mexico, where people are accessing the web through their phone because it's so much more economical, right? So no, I totally agree with you. I you know, that's probably nowadays, and who would have thought this years ago, you know, you can connect with thousands of people via phone versus in-person meeting or a conference or stuff, meetings you set up, right? And
Yeah,
that's the times we live in.
yeah, we live in a globalized world for sure, and these tools are only going to just facilitate even like home transactions. Like it's just going to be straight phone to phone transfer of. They're even putting QR code with transfer information on deeds. They're starting to do this.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's going to be the next few years. It's going to be definitely a game changer. Prices right now for December, the market's starting to cool down, so that means that supply is starting to come up. Usually around December it's slow anyways, but we're still anticipating that it's going to be a strong market and homes will still continue to appreciate for the next year.
Okay, so let me ask you this question then, because you know the last year in this pandemic, home prices in LA have just skyrocketed, right?
Right.
What do you think are the factors that have led to that? You know, I have friends telling me like, I don't even know if I could ever afford a house now. You know, and they've grown up their whole lives here. So what kind of factors attributed to these high prices?
Well, number one, it was the fact that the Federal Reserve basically lowered interest rates, and it was near zero. Japan actually uses negative interest rates, but the fact that the rates have been the lowest in decades, I want to say it was like 50 years plus that the rates have been this low. It really made homes affordable in California. And with the pandemic, the whole, you know, everybody printing money. Well, your money, unless they're giving you a 5% increase every year in your pay, like your money is worth less in the future than it will today. So that's why people are trying to put their money into real estate, because the market tanks, the dollar can tank, everything can tank. Yes, the values will go down eventually. Will they go down to 2008 levels? I don't think so, because we've already put too many things in force to protect from something like that happening again. People don't realize, but real estate is a great indicator of how robust the economy is. So if real estate is doing bad, the economy is doing bad. And so that data that we get from real estate, it's very important for the health of the nation to continue, for real estate and housing, and just people to continue to be moving for the wealth of the nation. It's also the core of, I think, life in general is, what do you need in life to survive, right? You need shelter, food, and clothing, right? Yeah. So housing is not going anywhere. The rates have definitely made it affordable. And I think for the people that are saying, I can't afford a house now, you need to find a way to get into a home now, whether it's teaming up with another person, co-borrowing, co-owning, any way you can try to get in. I've seen like this is something that I wish us Latinos did more of, because I see a lot of other races, they go and they team up 5 people on a house application. You know, you get all these, I see so many people on a deed. I'm like, dang, like, why can't we do something like that? Team up and just help each other out like that. So I wish we did more of that. And I think we'd be in a better place if we realize how much real estate can really help us level up if we we just allow ourselves and team up like we should.
Yeah, well, I think in 2007, 2008, a lot of people lost like 70, 80% of their equity, and most of their equity was in their home values, right?
Right.
So it is, you're right. It is a way for people to build generational wealth through real estate. It's been proven, it continues to go up, it goes down and up. But the reason I asked you about what attributed to these factors is because I want people to know, like, the interest rates are really important, because guess what? They're about to start going up. Like, I heard on the news with NPR that the feds are looking to raise the rates soon. So as soon as that happens, it's going to even cool down the market even more. And they need to wind down some of their bond buying programs. And once that happens, then they're going to start looking into raising the interest rates. For me, it's very important for people to know that, because especially if they've never bought a house. I know people who they want to buy a house, or they have a partner or another person they can co-buy a house with, but unfortunately, maybe their parents had never bought a house before, right? So they've been renters their whole lives. So who do they look to for this advice? They don't have that immediate advice, where you might feel comfortable asking, like, your parents, your uncle, your tia, or whatnot, someone close to you. But you're right. I think people need to get into real estate as soon as they can. So many people are afraid of like having a huge payment. Then I look at them and I'm like, dude, you're paying like yourself $1,500 for rent. Like, you could be sending that money for your own property.
Like, if you qualify for a rental, you're probably going to qualify for a home.
Yes.
It's so strict to even get a rental. Period.
Yeah, and it's about building that equity that we don't really think about too much. Where, like, if you make the investment now, 5-10 years from now, you're gonna see your investment grow, and it's a long-term strategy. It's not about thinking short-sighted, but thinking long-term. That yes, you're putting money into something right now, it's gonna benefit you down the line. So it's an investment in yourself at the end of the day. But let me ask you this question. So from becoming a real estate agent and from seeing all these transactions closing on homes and stuff, what is a financial lesson you would want the audience to take today? Because there's a ton of things that happen out there when you're buying a home. But what is like maybe one of the mistakes, or one of like maybe just a story that you want people to hear so that they know, like, look out for this when you're buying a home or when you're becoming a real estate agent? What could you share with us?
I think right now for this market, I think it's important for buyers to be realistic that because of lack of inventory, you're not going to get everything you want. You could be the best negotiator, but it's like you have to compromise if you want a home. At this point, you have to compromise. If you want to wait, it's going to cost you later too. So it's like you have to decide, make your list of pros and cons. Is this even like the roof being bad on a home? That's going to be, an investment. When you fix that roof, it's going to appreciate the home even more. It's kind of like unless it's a new home, don't expect for the house to be brand new. And even if it's remodeled, right? Even if it's remodeled, a lot of people are out there fixing and flipping things. Like, do a really good inspection. And if it turns out that, hey, oh yeah, this is a good one. Sewage camera inspection. Oh my goodness. It'll cost you like $500-$600, but it'll save you so much money and a headache. Because, for example, I had a friend that she just got she didn't do the extra sewage cam where they basically run the camera all the way to the county line. So within a few months, that pipe bursted and she had paid $20,000 for that. So wow. Don't cheap out on your inspections, but also don't let it go just because, okay, a little piece of wood is rotting on a eave or a rafter. There's a crack here or that. Don't think that those are deal breakers. Even the biggest, what you think a deal breaker is, it has a solution if it's within your budget. And this is why I tell people, like, just be realistic with what your reserves are, because if you can get this house at this price and understand that this inspection report is going to be your to-do list, and when you fix it, it's not going to be a waste. Like, it's going to only improve the value of your home. So at the end of the day, you come up winning. Just compromise. in this market. Be
Okay.
willing to compromise. Be willing to compromise, because
No.
obviously, yeah, not everything is going to be non-negotiable, right? For the most part, it's just being able to understand your budget.
And let me ask you about like contingencies right now. Are people removing a lot of their contingencies because the market's so hot? Like, what's going on with that?
Yes, right now there are a lot of people who are removing contingencies. And for those of you who don't know what contingencies are, is think about like gates to the kingdom, right? The first
Mhm.
gate is you have the right as a buyer to an inspection. So once you knock that gate down, you're good to go. You remove that contingency. And then the second protection that you get, the second gate that you have to go through to get to your house, is the appraisal contingency. So the bank, the lender that you have, will not loan unless that house is actually worth what you're putting an offer for. So if you put an
Mm.
offer for $1 million, but the house is only worth 200,000, the bank's not just going to loan out $1 million, right?
Got it.
So
Yes.
so you have to make sure that the house appraises. Otherwise, you have to come up with that, and that's called coming up with the gap, basically that 800K, right? Once the appraisal contingency passes, you waive, you let it go, basically. You sign off on it. And then the third one is, once the appraisal does go through, the lending contingency is your last protection. Once you remove it, it's like you're basically naked and you're like, the house is mine. Right?
Yeah.
So it's like layers, right, that you got to remove in order to do your due diligence. So people are removing contingencies if their budget allows, and if the houses. This is why it's important to work with a pricing strategist. And I can
Mhm.
say with confidence that 100% of the homes that I put in offers for my clients for on their
Mhm.
behalf, they've actually all 100% of them appraised at full value. So that's something I'm very
Well,
proud of, because it has an impact. Because if you are going to put a price higher, offer a price higher than what it might appraise for, then the bank, you might just lose out on the house, because the bank probably won't even loan on it. And if you don't have the reserves to come up, then you're basically out.
right. You have to have all that money that did
Yeah.
make up the difference. And so talk to me a little bit about your pricing strategies, because I know that you're an expert in that. So tell the audience like how that works with you.
I got an extra designation from, it's like I like to collect. I'm a little nerd. I like to collect designations and knowledge. So basically, with the pricing designation, you can get in there just short of an appraiser. You comp out amenities and comps. So like if you have, any agent can basically say, oh, here's your comp analysis and print out a report, right?
See.
But when it comes to crafting your offer, when it comes to selling your house, you want to be able to be in a position where you can take an offer, if you're a seller, that's going to appraise, right? And then you want to be able to give an offer that's going to appraise if you're a buyer. So your whole deal can basically fall through if you don't have an accurate, good price range of what your house is valued at, seller and
Mm.
buyer. So
And so is that like a service that you offer, and that's separate from like walking them through buying a house?
that's interesting that you say that. No, I'm full service, so that comes with working with me. One interesting thing that people do not know is that if
Mhm.
you're looking to buy a house, you actually, the money doesn't actually come from the buyer. So once the proceeds are done from the sale, the seller side pays for that, basically, through the proceeds. So you don't
Through
have to
this.
pay anything as buyer. You don't have to pay for your agent's commission.
Oh yes, that's okay. I'm glad you bring that up, because you kind of wonder like, how does this person get paid if they're like
Exactly.
helping me find a home and close on it? These are all the little nitty gritty things that people don't know about, especially if they've never bought a home before. So there's so much that goes into it. I would say that it's kind of stressful sometimes buying a home, but once you're in it, it's like the best feeling in the world. But no, thank you for sharing that. And like, thank you for saying that it's part of your service, because I would be thinking right now from the get go, like, oh, probably is something separate I have to pay for. But, if you truly want to see the value of your home before you purchase it, I would want a report like that.
Exactly.
And for it to be accurate, and then it kind of matches with the appraisal people put out there as well. I would just be like 100% confident going into buying that home versus just,
Right.
I'm going to put in an offer for over 50K on it.
Exactly, right? Like, what's the point?
Because I feel like that's what a lot of people right now are thinking. They're like, oh my God, like if the house is 700, then I need to offer 750, 775, and you're like, whoa, like you don't want to overprice a home and then prices come down in the next year or something like that. We don't know. we have no idea when the prices are going to level off or go down. But what I do know is that in the real estate industry, levels go up and down like a roller coaster.
Exactly. They go up and down, but ultimately they end up going up in general, like
Yes.
overall.
It's
Right?
kind of like the stock market, right? So if you do like a simple Yahoo Finance chart from when the stock market opened to now, it is a line, that diagonal line that goes straight up. And mind you, it might have taken a lot of years in between for that to keep going up. But ever since, even through the Depression, even through the Great Recession we went through, that line has continued to go up and up and up. So that's the way I see real estate too.
Yeah,
And
let me give you,
go for it.
let me give you an example of what that number wise would look like. Let's say you get a house for $500,000, 500K, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're worried about the down payment. But in 1 year, just check it out. Last year, 11% appreciation in California. You would have got 55K in equity back just in 1 year.
In 1 year. I know. Isn't that like unprecedented? That doesn't happen too often, right?
It doesn't. It does not. So that's all. That's like what I'm saying. That's all just money that you can use to pay off tuition, to pay off debt, to any medical expenses, to just improve your quality of life. And that's all done through real estate.
Yes, yes. Even through, so even improvement of life for me also means like, hey, what if you want to remodel the home that you bought because you compromised on it during the pandemic? Well, now you can pull out equity and continue to make your same payments, right? Because you refinance or something. And so your payment.
Goodness, yes.
Yeah. So like so many people don't know about these strategies. Like I'm like, you need to get into a home. If you really want to provide your kids, your family, your grandchildren, that wealth that's going to last, not just with you, but throughout other generations. Home, real estate, real estate, real estate.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we reached our final question, and I'm so sad because I feel like you have so much more information to give. But of course, I will have like the websites that you shared with us, your website, your Instagram handle on the podcast notes, so anyone could reach out to you if they're looking to buy a home or just get information from you, because I know you're great at educating people. And really, I feel like even myself in the tax industry, I feel like I educate my clients every single day, because if they're an educated and an informed tax client, they also need to be educated, informed, real estate buyer, right? So,
Exactly.
and I feel like that's what's missing out. All of this information is out there, but you have to like grab it where you can.
Right.
So thank you for sharing that information. And I would love to have you back on the show for other topics. But for right now, what would be your final takeaway for the Latinx community? What piece of advice can you give future like entrepreneurs that want to start their own business or want to go into real estate?
That is a great question. So my number one tip would be do the most you can with what you have.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you know better, just do better.
Oh, okay. That's good. Yes.
We're all on different level playing fields, and no one is in your shoes. And you might just have everyone talking so much smack about everything that you're doing. My own family was like, oh, she's just worried about money, and people associate money with evil. And it's just this conversation that I had with another realtor. And I was like, just in general, money is just associated with so much negativity, but it's like, okay, you need to survive in the world. Whatever means of exchange you need to do to get that, since back in history, take it back, bartering, before money was even created, like you got to do what you got to do to improve the quality of your life. And if that's going to be seen as a negative to some people, they will come around. But you can't be all sad, mopey and sad, waiting for people because they don't see your vision or support you, or they talk negatively about what you're doing because they just don't understand. It's just a different level of mentality.
Yes, no, I appreciate you sharing that, because I think so many of us want approval from our immediate family, our partners, our loved ones, and sometimes they can see your vision, but they're not comfortable executing that. But they're not the ones that are going to execute your vision, and you're the one that needs to go out there and do it. Because if you don't take those classes, you don't become an agent, or if you take the next steps to move into the field you want, like it's not going to happen. Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, thank you for being on the show. You've been great. I appreciate all the information you shared. I guess until next time, Cynthia, it was great having you on.
Awesome, Randy. Pleasure being here, an honor. And anybody can reach out to me. And I'm just an open book, and let's chat about real estate.
Oh, yes, we will. And I'll have all your information on there too. So just really quick, your website is cynthiajauregui.com, and then your Instagram Instagram handle is real estate underscore agent. But I'll have all of that in the notes too.
Right. Realist_agent.
Realist. Okay. Sorry. I said that wrong, but yes. Again, thank you so much.
All right. Take care, Randy.
All right. You too. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. Please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and share this podcast with your network. Your support helps our LatinX business community grow stronger with every listen, and I truly invite you to connect with us. Send us your questions, your comments, or even your own business stories to randy@rgtaxes.com. I would love to hear from you. Until next time, keep learning, keep building your business, and keep growing your business mindset.